It's the 1st of December 2017. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon. The sun's in the middle of Sagittarius, the moon is approaching the middle of Taurus. Mars is coming towards the end of Libra and moving into Scorpio. And boy, would I be glad to see that. And Mercury is about to go retrograde in some 40 hours from now. Over this last few days, I've had real troubles recording videos, both for people and globally. And I've had to take some pretty extreme measures and enlist the help of a few good friends to help me get my videos live. And it seems that everything I've done, the universe has kind of stopped me. Now, I put this down to Mercury retrograde. It's my experience over the last few decades that the Mercury retrograde is felt as strongly as it is during the actual retrograde process beforehand as well. A week or two before, while we're in the Mercury retrograde shadow, is at least as bad as the Mercury retrograde itself, if not in some cases worse, at least in my experience. So it got me thinking about the nature of retrogrades. The outer planets are retrograde. By the outer planets, I mean the planets from Mars out, the planets outside of Earth's orbit. They go retrograde when the Earth is on the same side of the Sun as them. The Earth is going faster than them. So when observed from the surface of the Earth, because they're going slower in their orbital speed than the Earth is, they appear to be going backwards against the backdrop of the sky behind them. The inner planets, Mercury and Venus, go retrograde in a different way to the outer planets. I mean, they still move in the same patterns, but our perception of them is different because they're inside the Earth's orbit. It should be stressed that a planet never actually travels backwards. It's from our perceptive viewpoint. So it set me thinking, it made me look at different planets' retrograde patterns. Pluto goes retrograde 5 3/4 months a year. Neptune goes retrograde 5.5 months a year, and Uranus goes retrograde 5 1/4 months a year. Saturn goes retrograde about 4 3/4 to 5 months of the year, and Jupiter goes retrograde for 4 months in a year. Mars goes retrograde for about 9 weeks every 2 years. Venus goes retrograde for about 5 times every 8 years, incidentally in a perfect pentagonal pattern. And Mercury goes retrograde 7 times every 2 years. When Venus goes retrograde, it can stay retrograde for as short as a month or as long as 6 weeks. Mars will go retrograde for 9 weeks, as it will later this year in early Aquarius. Mercury can go retrograde for anywhere from 20 days to 26 days. This current retrograde we're heading into is 20 days long. So it stands to reason that it's going to be difficult to find a time where there are no retrogrades. I have about 1 in 80 of my clients don't have any retrogrades. The majority of my clients, myself included, have 1, 2, sometimes 3 retrograde planets. Occasionally I see someone with 4 or 5 retrograde planets, and there have been 1 or 2 times in the last 60 years where there's been 6 or even 7 planets retrograde, and that is highly unusual, but it does happen. There is one case, I believe, somewhere in the 60s, early 60s, where 8 planets were retrograde. When you find this in a chart, it suggests that the person is much more introvert rather than extrovert. When a person is born with no retrogrades, which happens about 1.5% of the time, then they're much more outgoing and they act first and think later. When a lot of planets are retrograde in your horoscope, you tend to be more a person who reassesses, considers, thinks things through first, has a degree of retrospect and reassessment before taking action. And with the current retrograde cycle coming to a close for a lot of planets, I find it interesting that over the period of January the 3rd through to March the 8th of next year, there are no planets retrograde. In my experience, and looking back over the last 60 odd years, I don't think I've ever seen a period of 9 consecutive weeks where there are no retrograde planets. Highly unusual. And what this tells me is that the early part of the new year is going to be very proactive, incisive and dynamic. And then we'll spend the rest of the year reassessing and reevaluating it. But it's going to be really weird and interesting to see what happens on planet Earth in the first 9 weeks of next year. Okay, I'm trying a new video system today, and if this works, then everyone's going to be getting their personal videos in the next couple of days, and hopefully this will work for the world. Catch you later, world. Bye.